Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. Sri Chaitanya Manavistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Shapadnatikam Vanshakapa Chubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevascha Patitanam Pavinebhyo Vaishnavede Namo Namah. In this year's Vyasa Puja book, I have written an offering, but because it's quite long, and I think everyone will go to sleep if I read it, so I won't read what I have written, but I will say something about the essence of it and about why I wrote it. In this offering, I had an experience of going to, or before I wrote, the inspiration for the offering was an experience I had going to some Ayurvedic clinic in south of India. And in this clinic last year, there were many Westerners. And a lot of them, they were spiritual seekers. They all were spiritual seekers. But there I was wearing a dhoti all the time. But because of the circumstances, I was a patient and they were also patients, I couldn't preach very, very directly. But when I started speaking to them, they were members of so many different groups. And what I understood is that really they had no idea what spiritual life was about at all. They chanted mantras, they did yoga exercises, they practiced this philosophy or that philosophy, but they actually had no idea of the difference between a spiritual activity or a material activity. And one of them even said, in our group, we don't have any restrictions. We can do as we like because we want to get to the root of ignorance. We don't want to deal with the superficial things. So we can eat meat, we can do this, anything we can do. So I really understood something from this, and that was the cause of my writing this particular Vyasa Puja offering. And it explains Prabhupada's completely straight and strong, and sometimes even difficult to hear, exposing the rascals of this world who are either in the form of political leaders or in the form of so-called spiritualists. He called them rascals again and again and again. One year in Melbourne, I gave a seminar, and in that seminar I went through one morning walk of Srila Prabhupada's here in Vrindavan. And in that one morning walk, which was perhaps 30 minutes or 40 minutes, he used the word rascal perhaps 20, 30 times. This one is a rascal, and this one is a rascal, and this one is a rascal. And I found that there are some devotees that really don't like to hear Prabhupada condemn everyone because it sounds so sectarian. Only our group is right, and everyone else is wrong. So I did a little research about government leaders, and what I wanted to do is show in a slide presentation an atomic bomb going off, to show, yes, these people are rascals. So I went on, of course, when you want to find out something, you Google it. So I Googled it, and I saw not what I expected to see, but I saw the result. There were photographs of the result of the nuclear bomb that went off, the atomic bomb that went off in Hiroshima in 1940 something or other, 7 or something. And it was heartbreaking. An entire city was completely destroyed and nothing remained standing. Over 70,000 people in an instant were killed. These people, I understood, were rascals. And as far as I have seen, there is only one person who has the courage to call them what they actually are again and again and again. The spiritualists who say it doesn't make a difference what you do. They're rascals. The political leaders who allow these things to go on, they're rascals. And Srila Prabhupada, sometimes he would say, I know the word is harsh, but yet, and then sometimes he would say, I am not saying this, but Krishna, Dwa Imao, that there are two kinds of beings in this world, the divine and the demoniac. So Prabhupada, sometimes he would say, first, I have a simple method. I find out if they are surrendered to Krishna. And if they're not surrendered to Krishna, they're in one of 4 categories. They are mudas, naradamas, in this way. They're rascals, dushkritina. And this is the fact. And if we follow the path of the rascals, of course, we will also fall into the category of being a rascal. That is on one side. And I would like to make a contrast between someone who follows the path of rascals and someone who follows the path that Srila Prabhupada taught us. I would like to speak of one very dear disciple of His Holiness Lokanath Maharaj, who passed away yesterday. I took Maharaj's permission. His name was Sankirtan Prabhu. Some of you may have known him. But Sankirtan Prabhu, a very sincere soul, preached all over in China, South Africa. He was a preacher. He used to travel alone from one city in China to the next. From one to the next, he would go to places where no one went. None of the other devotees would go. He would just go there by himself, and he learned. He was from Switzerland, and he could speak French, English, German, and also he learned to speak the language of the Chinese too. So he would just travel alone and go to these cities wherever there were devotees. And this very much falls in with what Maharaj was saying, that we should take this spirit to heart, because the result of having this spirit is the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada, the pleasure of the disciplic succession, the pleasure of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Instead of complaining, do something. So Sankirtan Prabhu would go from one city to the next, year after year. He did that. And then at some point he found out that he had some very horrible cancer. I don't know why Krishna does what he does. I can never understand, but in the words of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he is the transcendental autocrat. He acts as he likes. When Sankirtan Prabhu, that he found out that he had cancer, he went to get different kinds of treatments. He wanted to fight it. He was in China, and the devotees, because of what he had given, because he had given his life, the devotees contributed and they took care of him so nicely. Whatever was needed, they gave him, because this is the worry of everyone. Who's going to take care of me if I give myself to Krishna? Sankirtan Prabhu didn't have that worry. And the devotees, out of the kindness of the devotional heart, they took care of him. They contributed so much money so that he would get whatever treatment he was required. But it didn't work. Of course, I wanted him to come to Sri Vrindavan Dham, but he and Krishna had a different idea. So he went to his home country of Switzerland, and he started thanking all the devotees who had helped him in his life. He wanted to clear up everything, and he started any devotee that there was some tension with, because living in a big society, living in a house with so many people in it, it's very difficult to live without stepping on someone's toes every now and then. So he found every person, and I know other devotees who, when they were ill, they did this too. They just found anyone who they had any bad feelings towards, or any devotee like that, and they apologized and they worked everything out. And Sankirtan Prabhu became so free of anxiety because he had preached, he had served, and he had reconciled and thanked everyone. And he was so effulgent, and his eyes were so bright. And he wasn't in any anxiety, although he was dying of cancer. He had no energy. He was exhausted, he wrote to me. But he had no fear, because he had nothing to fear. He had given himself to Krishna. So I received a phone call from Switzerland yesterday, and the devotee who told me about Sankirtan's passing, he told me one little incident, that a non-devotee, one of his neighbors, came in to see him. And this neighbor, he looked at Sankirtan Prabhu, and he saw that he was weak, he had no body left, he had a huge lump, and yet he was effulgent, and amazingly enough, he was peaceful. And even more amazingly, he was fearless. He entered into the most difficult moment of life fearlessly, as a servant of Guru, Srila Prabhupada, of the Vaishnavas. And that person who he met, the person who had phoned me, he told me he spoke to that person again and again and again, that neighbor. And that neighbor again and again and again expressed his amazement, because he had never seen anything like this before. So here's a contrast. We follow the path that Srila Prabhupada gave us, or we follow the path of the rascals. So let us take the opportunity of this most auspicious day to pray to Srila Prabhupada, to pray to our Guru Maharajas, to pray to the Vaishnavas, to pray to Sri Gonitai, to pray to Sri Krishna Balaram, Sri Krishna Balaram, to pray to Sri Radha Shyama Lalita Vishakha Devi, that we will get the strength to be as surrendered as this great soul, Sankirtan Prabhu, in the service of Prabhupada. You must be so proud of him.
Spent a lot of time in Vrindavan organizing VIG and educating and inspiring devotees for many years. Mother Parvati, Mother, we knew you would be coming. She manifested.